when Texas Ranger Cordell Walker starts working on a hunch.
Vic, can you do me a favor?
Something up?
I'm not sure.
The bad guys don't stand a chance.
You can leave the easy way, or you can leave the hard way.
Is that a threat?
Your choice, Ranger.
Well, in that case, I guess I'll take the hard way.
Chuck Norris is Walker, Texas Ranger. Friday at 10:30 on ASN.
Welcome back, friends. There is some old internet lore that says Chuck Norris can kill 2 stones with 1 bird. Another story claims that when the boogeyman goes to sleep at night, he checks his closet for Chuck Norris. And if you grew up in the 90s, you know exactly where these jokes came from. They were born from a TV show so over the top, so gloriously earnest that it blurred the line between morality play, karate tutorial, and patriotic fever dream. That show was Walker, Texas Ranger. For 8 seasons from 1993 to 2001, Chuck Norris embodied Cordell Walker, a martial arts loving Texas Ranger who could deliver justice faster than you could say roundhouse kick. Each episode ended with a lesson, a life saved, and at least 3 bad guys flying through the air. However, behind all of the slow-motion kicks and Stetsons was a production that was surprisingly chaotic, weirdly sincere, but totally fascinating. So today, we're diving into 10 things you probably didn't know about Walker, Texas Ranger. The facts, the myths, and the real-life stories that made this show a one-of-a-kind phenomenon. Fact number 1. The show was almost canceled before it even started. In true Walker fashion, the series had to fight for survival right out of the gate. When CBS first greenlit the show, it wasn't the big, glossy network hit that most of us remember. It was a risky pilot made by Conan Television, a small production company that went bankrupt right before the show premiered. That meant no marketing budget, no plan for more episodes, and no guarantee that Walker would ever become a series. CBS decided to air the pilot movie titled One Riot, One Ranger as a one-off special in the spring of 1993, mostly just to fill a gap in their schedule. And in an unexpected turn, the ratings were huge. Audiences loved the mix of action, Texas scenery, and Chuck Norris justice. CBS quickly realized that they might be sitting on a hit, then swooped in to fund the production themselves, and Walker, Texas Ranger was officially born. If that pilot had not done well, we may have never seen the roundhouse that launched 1,000 memes. Fact number 2. Walker, Texas Ranger was the first primetime TV show to be filmed entirely in Texas. In the early 90s, most TV shows were either shot in Los Angeles or Vancouver, where studios had easy access to sets and tax breaks. Chuck Norris may have been born in Oklahoma, but his heart and his cowboy boots were pure Texas. He insisted that the show be filmed in Texas from start to finish. This was almost unheard of at the time. The state didn't yet have the film infrastructure that California did, but Norris pushed for authenticity. Production set up shop in and around Dallas using real Texas towns, real ranches, and highways instead of backlots. Not only did this give Walker its iconic look, all dusty roads, big skies, and longhorns, but it also boosted the state's film industry. Thanks to Walker's success, more productions began to film in Texas, laying the groundwork for future shows like Friday Night Lights and Fear the Walking Dead. So in a way, Cordell Walker didn't just clean up crime. He built the Texas TV economy. Fact number 3. Chuck Norris made Walker, Texas Ranger a family business. While Cordell Walker was busy taking down bad guys on the screen, the Norris family was quietly running the operation behind the scenes. Chuck was not only the star, he was also an executive producer. His brother Aaron Norris was the show's main producer and directed dozens of episodes, including the series finale. Chuck's son Eric Norris worked as a stunt director and occasionally doubled for his dad in dangerous scenes. Another son of Chuck's, Mike Norris, even appeared in multiple episodes as guest characters. Basically, Walker, Texas Ranger was less of a TV series and more of a family-run martial arts empire with a CBS time slot. And it totally worked. Maybe because the Norris family treated the production with the same discipline and intensity that Chuck brought to his fight scenes. You could say it was nepotism done right, the kind where everyone still has to break boards to earn their paycheck. Fact number 4. The theme song was sung by Chuck Norris himself. Yeah, you heard that right. The soaring, heartfelt theme song, Eyes of a Ranger, wasn't sung by some Nashville crooner or studio pro. It was sung by Chuck Norris himself. Starting in season 3, the show replaced its original opening with a montage of cowboy-coated justice set to Chuck's own vocals. Delivered in Norris's deep, slightly gravelly tone, it sounds like something between a Western ballad and a church hymn, and that made it catchy and impossible not to love. Partly because it's so sincere, and partly because it's so unexpected. I mean, after all, not every action hero decides to literally serenade their audience before a roundhouse kick montage. If the internet had been around in 1995 the way it is today, Eyes of a Ranger would have been a viral meme decades before YouTube even existed. Fact number 5. Walker's World was a who's who of future Hollywood stars. For a show that was set deep in Texas, Walker, Texas Ranger had a shockingly impressive guest star list, many of whom went on to become household names. Before That 70s Show, a young Mila Kunis appeared in a 1997 episode as a little girl learning martial arts from Walker himself. Chuck Norris even taught her how to throw a real punch between takes, a skill she would later joke about on late-night TV. Tobey Maguire showed up in a 1993 episode years before putting on the Spider-Man suit. Giovanni Ribisi popped up in another, and Bryan Cranston, yup, Walter White himself, played a villain in 1994. If you ever wanted to see Heisenberg get kicked through a saloon door by Chuck Norris, Walker, Texas Ranger had you covered. Even Gary Busey showed up as a character named Riggs, a tongue-in-cheek nod to Mel Gibson's character from Lethal Weapon. It's like the Avengers Endgame of 90s guest stars, only with more bolo ties. Fact number 6. The show almost had a totally different name. Believe it or not, Walker, Texas Ranger almost rode onto television screens with a much worse title, Sam Bolt, Texas Ranger. During the early stages of development, producers hadn't settled on a name for Chuck Norris's character or the show itself. The working title, Sam Bolt, was meant to sound fast and heroic, but it didn't exactly roll off the tongue. Thankfully, someone in the writer's room realized it sounded more like a cartoon detective than a rugged lawman and pushed for a change. The name Walker ended up being a subtle nod to Chuck Norris's 1986 adventure film titled Firewalker, one of his pre-TV hits, while the Texas Ranger part cemented the show's identity as a modern Western. It's funny to think about it now, but Sam Bolt, Texas Ranger, might have lasted all of one season before fading into TV obscurity. Now, Cordell Walker, on the other hand, became a name that fans still associate with grit, honor, and a really good roundhouse kick. Fact number 7. C.D. Parker quit to run for Congress. One of the most beloved supporting characters on the show was C.D. Parker, the retired ranger who owned the bar where Walker and Trevette hung out between missions. He was played by actor Noble Willingham, a real-life Texan who gave the show its warm, folksy charm. But in 1999, fans were shocked when CD suddenly disappeared from the series. The reason? Willingham had left Walker to run for Congress in Texas. He was a lifelong Republican and decided to run against incumbent Max Sandlin for a U.S. House seat. Unfortunately, he lost the race and never returned to the show. Still, it's kind of perfect. C.D. Parker went from serving beers to serving his country. And it just proves that the line between Walker, Texas Ranger and real-life Texas was sometimes paper thin. Fact number 8. The Chuck Norris violence controversy. For a show that always ended with a moral lesson, Walker, Texas Ranger had a surprising amount of violence, at least by 1990s broadcast standards. It wasn't exactly graphic, but it was constant. Roundhouse kicks, thrown knives, explosions, and slow-motion takedowns all over the place. In 1998, UCLA's Center for Communication Policy flagged Walker as one of the shows of concern for excessive violence. A few years earlier, a watchdog group ranked it the third most violent show on television. But Chuck Norris didn't take the criticism lightly, or quietly. In 1993, Norris appeared on an ABC special about kids and television violence, hosted by Peter Jennings. Norris thought he'd been invited to talk about his youth charity program. But instead, Jennings ambushed him with clips of Walker and called him the most violent man on television. Norris later stated that he was furious about the bait and switch. He defended the show, arguing that the violence was never gratuitous. Walker only fought to protect others, and episodes always ended with a lesson about doing the right thing. And honestly, Chuck wasn't wrong. Compared to what's on TV now, Walker Texas Ranger feels practically wholesome. Today, its biggest weapon is easily nostalgia. Fact number 9. The show got a second life thanks to Conan O'Brien and the internet. When Walker ended in 2001, that might have been the end of it, until a certain late-night host brought it roaring back. In the early 2000s, Conan O'Brien introduced a recurring segment called the Walker Texas Ranger Lever. Whenever he pulled the lever, a random clip from the show would play, completely out of context. 1 second, Walker was jumping out of a helicopter. The next, a child was gravely announcing, "Walker told me I have AIDS." It was absurd, it was hilarious, and instantly viral before viral was even in our dictionary. The clips became cult favorites quickly, introducing Walker to a whole new generation who had never seen it before, and who probably couldn't even tell if it was a parody or not. Even Chuck Norris himself got in on the joke, making an appearance on Late Night with Conan O'Brien to pull the lever personally. Then came the Chuck Norris Facts meme, the internet phenomenon that claimed, among other things, that Chuck Norris counted to infinity. Twice. All of these jokes exploded around 2004 to 2005 on internet pages everywhere, turning Norris into an online legend seemingly overnight. And here's the thing, that meme was born directly from Walker Texas Ranger. The character's unstoppable moral perfection was the blueprint for all of these exaggerated, god-tier facts. In a strange way, Walker didn't just create a TV hero. It helped invent one of the first viral internet icons. Fact number 10. Good guys drove Dodges, bad guys drove Fords. Product placement isn't new to TV, but Walker Texas Ranger took it to a whole other level. The show had built a long-term partnership with Chrysler, which meant one thing. The good guys always drove Dodges. Cordell Walker's signature vehicle was a shiny Dodge Ram, and Trevette's was usually a Jeep or a Chrysler sedan. Meanwhile, if you saw a shady character roll up in a Ford or Chevy, you could pretty much guarantee that they were up to no good. It quickly became an unspoken visual code. Dodge equals hero, Ford equals villain. And this theme was so consistent that fans began joking it was the show's secret morality system. Forget black hats and white hats. In Walker, justice ran on Mopar. To this day, executives at Dodge still cite Walker Texas Ranger as one of their most successful brand integrations ever. Because really, who wouldn't want to buy the truck driven by a man who can roundhouse kick a moving car? Bonus: Walker's legacy. Even after its finale in 2001, the world of Walker Texas Ranger refused to die. Chuck Norris and his brother Aaron produced a TV movie titled Trial by Fire in 2005, meant to serve as a potential reboot. Unfortunately, in true Walker fashion, it ended on a cliffhanger. Walker's longtime partner and love interest Alex Cahill gets shot, and the movie fades to black before we find out if she survived or not. The plan was to follow up with another movie to resolve the story. Unfortunately, CBS never put in the order for that movie, and the cliffhanger has haunted fans ever since. Still, Walker's DNA lives on. From the 2021 reboot starring Jared Padalecki, to the enduring online fandom that keeps sharing clips, quotes, and roundhouse kick memes nearly 30 years later. Walker Texas Ranger may have been a product of its time, complete with moral monologues and villains who confess seconds before a kick to the chest. But it represents something people still crave. A world where good and evil are clear, where decency wins and where justice can be delivered with one spinning heel to the jaw. Walker Texas Ranger wasn't high art. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't even realistic, but that's exactly why it worked. It was a world where courage was simple, heroes were strong, and no one ever doubted the power of one good man to make things right. Preferably making things right with a perfectly executed roundhouse kick. So the next time you see a storm brewing over Dallas, just remember, it's not thunder, it's Chuck Norris warming up. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of TV's most legendary action shows, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop your favorite Walker Texas Ranger moment in the comments below. Maybe it was the theme song, maybe it was the memes, or just maybe it was the sheer joy of watching justice served one spin kick at a time. Until next time, everybody, stay strong, stay good, and never, ever drive a Ford in front of Cordell Walker.